In Sudan, a brutal power struggle has absolutely spiraled into one of the worst crises on the entire planet. Today, we're going to break down how it all happened and why it seems like the rest of the world is looking away.
To really get a sense of the scale here, just start with this number, 12 million. That's how many people have been forced to flee their homes. It's the largest displacement crisis happening anywhere in the world, period. And then you have the death toll. We know at least 150,000 people have been killed. But you know what? Aid agencies are all saying the same thing. That's a very conservative number. The real figure, hidden by all the chaos, is almost certainly much, much higher. And then there is the hunger. Over 24 million people, that's more than half of Sudan's entire population, are facing severe food shortages. This isn't some warning about a famine down the road. For millions of people, it's their devastating reality right now. So you have to ask, right? How did a nation of 46 million people get pushed to the absolute brink like this? Well, to understand that, you have to look at the two men right at the center of this whole mess. At its core, this whole war is a brutal fight for power between two generals. Here's the crazy part. They were once allies. They seized power together. But their ambitions just got too big, they turned on each other, and they dragged the entire nation down with them. You know, this conflict didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was the final, total collapse after years of instability. Back in 2019, when the dictator Omar al-Bashir was thrown out, there was this real hope for democracy. But that hope was completely crushed by another coup in 2021, and that's what really set the stage for this catastrophic war that exploded in April 2023. Okay, so here are the two main players. On one side, you've got General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. He's the head of the official army, the Sudanese Armed Forces, or SAF. And on the other side is his former deputy, General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, but everybody knows him as Hemedti. He leads this incredibly powerful paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF. So what was the breaking point? Well, there was this proposed move towards a civilian government. A huge part of that plan was to merge Hemedti's massive 100,000-strong RSF into the regular army. And that immediately raised the million-dollar question: who would be in charge of this new combined military? Neither general was willing to give an inch, and the entire country paid the price for their standoff. So after all this fighting, what does the country actually look like? Let's take a look at who controls what on the ground right now.
Sudan is now effectively split right down the middle. The army, the SIF, controls most of the north and east, but the RSF, they dominate this huge territory out west, which includes nearly all of the Darfur region. Now, this is crucial because that's where a lot of Sudan's gold mines are, which gives the RSF its own massive source of cash. And their power comes from a very dark place. The RSF literally grew out of the infamous Janjaweed militia, the same group behind the genocide in Darfur 20 years ago.
Not long ago, the army did manage to score a big strategic win. They took back the capital city, Khartoum. But what they won was basically a hollow prize. The city was just a burnt-out shell. Ministries, banks, hospitals, all of it completely destroyed. The fighting has been brutal absolutely everywhere, but out in that western region of Darfur, the violence has taken on a truly horrifying new character. And the accusations sound disturbingly familiar, echoing the region's dark, dark past. And all of this has forced the world to ask a terrible question. Are we really watching a repeat of the Darfur genocide from 2 decades ago? The evidence coming out is just deeply, deeply disturbing. You have reports from Human Rights Watch, from the UN, from the US, and they all point to this horrifying, systematic campaign of violence. They describe the RSF and its allies targeting the Masalit and other non-Arab groups for murder, for rape, for what is essentially ethnic cleansing. The evidence became so overwhelming that, in January 2025, the United States government finally made a formal determination. They called it what it is. The atrocities being committed by the RSF and their allies in Darfur constitute genocide. Now, for their part, the RSF denies all of this. They completely reject the label of genocide. Instead, they're trying to frame all the violence as just an internal, tribal conflict, not some targeted ethnic campaign. So, with a crisis on this scale, and credible accusations of ongoing genocide, you have to wonder, what has the world's response been? Well, that's where things have come under some intense and pretty painful scrutiny. I mean, sure, there have been several attempts at diplomacy. Peace talks here and there, but they have all completely failed. Groups like the International Crisis Group have called the diplomatic push lackluster, saying that neither side seems to have any real interest in stopping the fight.
So why isn't this getting more global attention? The head of the World Health Organization offered a pretty stark and uncomfortable reason. He said he believes the race of the victims is a factor in why the world's response has been so quiet.
And the real-world impact of this inaction is just staggering. Take the number 80%. It represents two catastrophic things. First, it's the massive drop in Sudan's state revenues. But even worse, it's also the percentage of emergency food kitchens that have been forced to shut down, which is directly fueling this famine. Which really just leaves us with a final, deeply unsettling question. As this war just grinds on and the suffering gets worse, you have millions of people trapped in what's become the world's forgotten war. And they're asking a question that has no easy answer. Who is left to help?